Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I am Don Irvine, your host, joined by my co-host, as always, Brian McNichol.
Hello, deplorables, dregs, despicables, chumps. It's 2 weeks in a row. Chumps, Neanderthals, semi-fascists, and of course those dog-faced bony soldiers.
That's because you're a sports guy.
Champs. We're the champs. The champion chumps.
Champion chumps.
Yeah, the chump champs.
All right. Well, the weather's not too bad. It was a little rainy this morning, but
it's winter weather. It's really typical gray, wet, unpleasant. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not forbidding. You can go out if you need to go out, but it's not fun. I can hardly wait for it to get a little warmer. I don't want to, the age where, I don't want to wish any of my life away either. So, hold on every day.
That's right. All right. I do need, I'll tell you a little story though. It was kind of, I have all this interaction with our missionaries, right? Mm-hmm. And they have to report to me about where they're serving in the community and whatnot. And I got this report and I'm like, what? And so I contacted them because it said they were helping to move Tulia Tagovailoa. And I'm like, what's all this about? Now, one of the things here is that one of the missionaries is actually Polynesian, right? And so I had to dig deeper in there. And he said apparently the other missionaries who were assigned to that College Park area, they asked him, it says, do you want to help this guy move? And he's like, yeah, I'm always down to help a poly brother. And so apparently, he gave him lots of food and he gave him a bunch of Maryland swag, which apparently he's going to gift some of that down to me.
So, wow. Check it out.
Yeah. Well,
from the quarterback himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he's going into the draft, right? So
is he going to the draft or is he going or trying to play another year at college somewhere?
Portal? Yeah. This portal thing has got me, it's like some people enter the portal, then they leave the portal, some decide to declare to the draft. It's such a circus right now.
Yeah, it really is.
Trying to keep track of all that. The thing about too is that I can only imagine this young missionary probably had a lot of fun, not only because they share a Polynesian background, but this kid, before he came on his mission, was actually signed to play for Mike Leach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, I
was also Latter-day Saints.
Right. And so I don't think he knows what he's going to do when he goes home. I think he goes home. I think he finishes his mission this year because, after Leach passed away, don't know if the scholarship is still there or whether or not things change a lot. So I'll be kind of curious to watch this young man in his next phase of life. But kind of an interesting little thing that I thought I'd just throw that at the beginning. What the heck, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I just see this. I'm like, what the heck? Because I'm thinking like, I bet you those sister missionaries probably really had no clue what was going on. And
who is this guy? Why do we like him?
Maybe, I guess he's a football player, but kind of. Maybe we get some of that Taylor Swift phenomenon, with young girls who's like all of a sudden they love the NFL, right?
I want to tell you something. So at practice the other night, 6th grade girls, right, that I coach, they like as soon as they come in the gym, like 5 of them run up to me and say, "Who do you like in the Super Bowl? Who do you think's going to win?" And I said, "Well, I think that San Francisco is just somehow anointed, right? Like whatever they need, they somehow find a way to do. And so I think it's them." And they're like, well, we're for the Chiefs, but we don't want to see Taylor Swift on TV anymore. It's football. It's not a fashion show. And I'm like, what? And they're all like, yeah, no more Taylor Swift on TV, ruining football. And I'm like, these are, they're competitive girls, right? Because they're playing big time basketball, but it was kind of surprising. They were all like, no more of that. So
yeah. So I dipped my toe into the Taylor Swift waters. I wrote a short article for our campus report this month, and it was really about, there's Taylor Swift courses are popping up across college campuses. And it's hard to find all of them, but there was some information on some of them. And at least the ones that were mentioned, none of them really are being done in the music department or anything related to that. That the BYU, one of the things that caught my eye was because BYU is offering one this semester, and the professor is a guy, but he's been a Swiftie since Swift's first album in 2006. So this is like a lifelong dream for this guy. It's like, I was like, whatever. But his is all about the philosophy behind the lyrics and stuff like that. And I looked at some of these other courses, and it was really, sometimes it was about maybe one album or one song and stuff like that. And so students are actually paying to go to class to talk about Taylor Swift. Okay, how what's going on here in college? The thing I thought that what they're really missing, to me, if you want to validate this maybe a little bit, is that make it an economics type of a course.
Yeah, I think some of them are, right. Some of them are like how she made all the money and what how she evaluated the revenue streams and all this stuff.
Because with her Eras tour this past year, raked in over $1 billion. There's going to be, I guess, another one this coming year. They've probably will taken at least another $1 billion, in gross sales. She is an economic engine. I mean, the things that she does, and even with with all this Travis Kelce stuff, she's an economic engine because she gets people to go, young girls to go buy Travis Kelce jerseys on top of that, right? So she is a force of nature. You don't necessarily have to agree with her on her songs or her politics or whatever, but I think economically, this is something that Joe Biden ought to be promoting a little bit more.
Well, I mean, he is trying to he's trying to get her to come to the White House and do an event with him,
he needs something. Anyway,
right. But let me say, I'm going to say this about that before there's a lot of traffic on the internet about right wingers are freaking out about Taylor Swift. There's no reason to freak out about Taylor Swift. She's very talented. The people who love her really love her. She's made a ton of money. She's done it in a lot of interesting ways. It's not, you can't just pigeonhole her as any one thing. She's learned to adapt and come up with new ways in it. And she's sounded up voters, but I've been a Grateful Dead fan for 40 years, right? And Grateful Dead signs up voters too. And they're not aiming to fill out the ranks of Republican voters. Although Grateful Dead's appeal was always, hey, you want to have a say in how this is going to go, you need to go vote, right? It's very nonpartisan language that they used, right? Now, being the Grateful Dead, you can kind of assume how they want it to go. But, so NPR reported last week that they actually have added to the voter rolls about 9,000 voters as a result of her having the voter, because people go, they're too young, they don't live in that place, right? So for a lot of reasons, the little form they make out there does not equal a new voter always, right? So, but they're about 9,000 have added, and since she's been doing this, Trump's position vis-a-vis Biden on the young people, the under 30 vote, has done nothing but improve. So it is quite possible that she is signing up Trump voters without realizing it. 9,000 is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Anyway, so is it people can sign up voters. You don't like it, it's like when we were talking about. Scott Pressler is saying, let's follow the gun shows. Anything that has to do with guns, we should be out signing up voters. He said there's 80,000 unregistered hunters in Wisconsin. Wisconsin was like 16,000 votes last time. You sign up those 80,000 people. They won't all be Republican voters, right? Some will be Democrats, but that figures to be an edge for Republicans, just as not all hers, work out to be voting for the people she wants either. So just take a deep breath. It's the most interesting story in the NFL in decades, right? There's this guy and he's, on one of the best teams, and his, superstar movie star, recording star girlfriend goes to the games, and it's just such a, total spectacle every time, and that's fine. It's like, and someone came out yesterday that were saying that, it seems like they're showing her all the time on the games, right? But it's, like one of the games, all her screen time added up to 1 minute. All the rest of them was like 25 seconds, 35 seconds. That may be, 12 times they show her for 2 seconds, right? So you see her 12 times, but it's not for long, right? They just flash and she's doing her thing and they go back to showing football, right? So, big deep breath, America. It's okay that a football player is dating a big star, and, it kind of makes it more interesting than it was. We're fine. She can sign up voters. This is a hearts and minds contest. And if she's going out and, getting hearts and minds to her side, our remedy is to go get them to our side.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting point about the kind of the makeup of her audience, in the sense of, because so many people travel to a Taylor Swift concert, it can even price out the locals in a lot of cases. So you're not going to have as many locals. A lot of them are going to be in that teen year. They're going to be too young to sign up. So her impact on voter registration is, minimal. It's not really the right place to market for that overall. But I mean, I'm sure that, with her just being around, I mean, it's probably helped the ratings for the games that, for the Chiefs that played in, right?
Highest ratings in years, in like 15 years.
Yeah.
And for all the playoffs, not just for the Chiefs, but for all the playoffs.
Yeah. And it's a positive thing. I mean, I gave up watching NFL football after Colin Kaepernick. So I haven't watched an NFL game in like 7 years now. But they have now more than recovered from all those missteps, I think, from that. And Taylor Swift, for all the criticism that conservatives give her, she at least publicly, what gets reported a lot, is just her generosity, how she has given lots of money to lots of different people when she hears about their plight. And I think there was a story out of Baltimore where she even, she tipped a lot of the workers over there like $100 that were, over there, just whipped out an envelope and handed people $100 that had been working the suite and stuff like that. So, she didn't have to do any of that, because a lot of these superstars, they're just all about themselves.
She also hits the food bank everywhere she goes, gives them money. She's raised a lot of money for other causes and stuff, and she's very generous with the people who work for her and so forth. So she seems to. I don't know if you've seen this video of her talking to her dad about whether to endorse, how involved to be in politics, and her dad is like, you're going to turn off some fans, right? You're going to turn off some people who like you, and you may want to think about all that. And she's like, this is important to me. And it's like, it's interesting, like listening to them, but she's very much still, daddy's girl, asking for advice and, trying to square what he says with what she wants to do. Like, your kids that age do, right? It's the same kind of situation.
Yeah. So, it's more, so more power to her. I mean, the Super Bowl ratings could be even more through the roof. With Taylor around.
That's right.
Never know.
Get her involved in that halftime show. Come down and sing one for us,
Yeah, that would be bonkers. So, well, we can end the show right here, because since I've learned so much that you are a deadhead, that's all I need to know for the day. My nugget of the day.
There you go.
I will admit, I think somewhere on the shelf over there, not too far away from me, I may have a CD or two of Taylor Swift that I bought. But I don't actually listen to music anymore unless my wife plays music. And all she plays in the car is Bill Withers, Boss Skaggs, Earth, Wind and Fire, stuff like this.
Okay.
Like, brings me back a lot of memories and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got a lot of CDs that, I put on iTunes and all that stuff years ago. But I spend all my time listening to podcasts, and I don't listen to music unless something happens to pop up. So, more power to those that can make money and have got the talent to do that. All right. So I did want to get to this whole, we got this whole thing with this, UN relief agency. The story came out that potentially linking, I guess it was from Israel, that linking some of the workers to cooperating, helping plan the attacks on October 7th. This has really, I think, spun them into a real big problem, because a lot of other countries have said, we're pausing our payments, we're pausing our help right there, right?
That's
So
right.
what's going on?
They fired them all. So, they're telling you, yeah, you're probably right that they were involved in this, so, they know they did it, but this is how the UN operates. They get away, with whatever they can get away with. I mean, if you call them out, oh yeah, that's terrible. How did that happen? How did those people slip into the system? Okay, whatever, they didn't slip into the system. We all know how they got in the system, but that's the way they are. They don't, their response has been, if you do that, it'll hurt Gaza. And it's like, well, that's not really the primary concern here, is avoiding hurting Gaza. So, Australia is out now. I think we're out of, that's another blood of the UN. And it's like, we used to think, you would hear, I mean, I've been doing this 30 years now, and, people have been talking about killing the UN the entire time, or pulling the US out of it, or kicking it out of New York, or whatever. Right. And so you never really see the momentum to do it. Right. But there's something like this, is a big chip in that armor. Right. Is like when you go to defend the UN and say that we should continue to be a quarter of its operating budget, right, that comes out of our taxpayer funds. People are looking at it and saying, okay, well, they're fighting against our allies, right? They are attacking our allies. The Biden administration, it's a little iffy whether they consider Israel an ally, but you can't really tell that for sure, the way they act about Iran and so many other matters. But at what point do we really get horrified enough that we really have the votes in both houses of Congress to defund, or at least cut our funding to the UN?
Yeah, I mean, this would be a great case to, if Republicans could gain, firm control of the House and the Senate and the White House, then, maybe this time around, something could happen. But, they have a big hill to climb to get enough control over the Senate, I think, to make a difference there. But maybe maybe by the next election cycle, maybe something can happen here. But especially if it's completely proven, that this has been the case. I mean, firing the workers definitely, is a signal to something. But yeah, I mean, ever since I was a kid, I mean, it goes back even further for me. I still, I remember we'd get these little orange boxes at Halloween, right, with a little slot. And we were supposed, our school told us, go around your neighborhood and go collect money for UNICEF.
Right.
And that went on my father hated this. My father refused to let me go.
Yeah.
He says, don't do that. And because he raised me as a
quarters in the slot.
He raised me right. It's like, you're not getting any money for those guys, and that went on for years. I don't even know when they finally discontinued this, but it's been this thing that, we go through these cycles, and there's been these movements, some efforts, kind of mention about kind of defund the UN, and we need to withdraw. I mean, we provide so much of their budget, if we withdrew, it would really cripple them. And that could have a significant impact, instead of watching ourselves get browbeaten and bullied a lot of times by the other countries, in the UN. And it's like, what is the purpose of the UN for the US? People, I think conservatives will look, we don't even know why we're really there, doing these things. I mean, we've tried to send, some good conservatives to be our reps up there, under Republican administrations, but they usually don't last all that long. And it's a tough go. Yeah. It's one of those things that someday, maybe, I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime now, but maybe they can finally get some decent momentum to start, not putting so much money into them. I mean, if you start pulling back the funds, you will start having an impact on them, because it's like everything else in this world. When you start withdrawing your financial support, it speaks volumes. I mean, we saw that on college campuses. All those liberal billionaires and things like that about all this anti-Semitism, they started rallying the case and saying, we're going to pull our funding. We're not going to, we're not going to donate anymore. We're going to resign from boards. It woke a lot of those schools up
Right.
in terms of their operation.
I guarantee you, Harvard's got a new look on it now.
Harvard is still got. They're not out of the woods yet, but they're they're paying a price. There was an article too. I think Cornell's now also a target there too. So this is an ongoing thing. People think that this has faded to the background. There's still more to go on this. It hasn't ended yet, because the left is still the left, and they're still active, and they're still demonstrating.
That's right.
So we have all of those things. So we'll have to kind of wait and see how it goes. Now, the other story that I really want to talk about today too, get your take on, is this drone strike that killed 3 of our service members and injured another 30 or so. What happened here? What is the Biden administration doing? And who's to blame? I mean,
well, some of the blame, unfortunately, is us, because we mistook an enemy drone for a U.S. drone. So we didn't put up our defenses against it because we thought it was one of ours. So we made a big oopsie there. Apparently, Biden has still not contacted the families of the people who were killed. 3 Black people from Georgia. Maybe that's not where he sees himself. Maybe that's part of the reason he's behind in Georgia now. But obviously, so what's happening now, though, is, these attacks are being launched from Iran. So it's one thing you can, your surrogates give you a veneer of deniability, right? We didn't do that. We didn't tell Hamas to do that on October 7th. We gave them the money and trained them and made the plan, but we're not the ones who pushed the button there, right? But this is directly from their territory. So, this merits a response. And they say, if you do anything, then we'll fight back. Okay, well, that's what war is. We do something to you, you do something to us. That's how it kind of goes. But the fact is, we're in a war with Iran. Okay. And what's doubly galling about that is, Trump had this set up where he had the Abraham Accords, which I guess he's been renominated for the Nobel Prize now for that, which is, kind of interesting. But he had the Saudis and the Jews and all the Arab states, because they generally do what the Saudis say, aligned against Iran. They were squeezing Iran's assets, all that kind of stuff, breaking them, not letting them take part in the international energy market, right? So Biden comes in, frees their U.S. assets, writes them a big check, undoes the sanctions against them, lets them sell oil all over the world, however much they want, reduces our oil production so that, there'll be more market for Iranian oil. I mean, really could have done a whole lot more to help them. Angered the Saudis, tore up the Abraham Accords. And now, in other words, Trump was running it against Iran. Biden ran it for Iran. So which one of them did they attack? Biden, the one who ostensibly is on their side, right? The way to handle the Iranians is what Trump did, like give them no choice but to comply and to stay out of mischief, right? Because if you don't, then they're gonna do mischief. They see us as weak. They see the approach that Biden's taking now as weak, and that it's malleable, and that we're not really going to fight for what we were fighting for. And so they're going to keep pressing. They're going to keep doing the things they want to do. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even clear. I mean, I guess we keep hearing, Biden has made a decision as to what he's going to do, but we haven't heard that. You did mention that, there's, as far as we know, he hasn't contacted the families of the dead service members, which is really kind of unconscionable. I don't care.
3, right? It's not like it's 400.
Right. And right. And I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat as a president or whatever. The president, something like this happens, you need to make some kind of effort. You need to do something, and all of that. And I don't know what's going on, in Biden's head with all of this. But
that's in any degree what's going on in his head at all.
Well, and this I think this underscores part of the problem here is that this is a crisis. I mean, we've lost 3 service members. We've had dozens that are injured, and
We're
we
getting
don't.
attacked by a foreign
Yeah,
country,
and we don't have an immediate response. We don't seem to have a
right?
plan in place, and there's a lot of muddling going on. It's like you're the commander in chief. You're supposed to have this military team. We're supposed to be the best in the world theoretically. But what is going on there that you're not? You've let Iran do this. And plus those and those stories about how they tipped Iran off in the past. It's like exactly what's going on here. Once again, very different. I mean, this can be a potential campaign, issue too, of the difference between a Biden, administration and foreign policy and a Trump administration and foreign policy. And I am hearing more from people about things that are going on over the world that this probably would not have happened if Trump had been in office. And I think
That's right.
we have been preaching that for a long time, right?
Right.
Every time stuff happens overseas, that this is a direct result of who we have in the White House now versus who we had in the White House, between 2016 and 2020.
Right.
Vastly different operating, mindset, and even if people who hate Trump in a lot of ways is like, I think the foreign leaders, even when they didn't like him, they were still kind of scared of him in a way. It's like,
Right. I mean, and the thing about it is like that you see all these things where well, Biden is more popular with the foreign leaders. It's like, it's not a popularity contest. It's not junior high school, right? It's like which one of them keeps the bad guy off the door, and it's Trump, right? Trump has these things set up to where you don't get attacked. Okay, however he does it, whatever he does, you don't get attacked. So, and I think that's starting to resonate with people. The Democrats, they have 2 internal battles that I don't know how they resolve them. And if they don't resolve them, they don't win this election. And in fact, they could have a chance they could get wiped out in Congress and everything. And one of them is Israel versus Palestine, right? Whatever they choose, right? And right now it's sort of mad at both of them is sort of their posture, right? And Biden is trying to get rid of Netanyahu, or failing that, force him to accept a ceasefire, because a ceasefire has been proposed if the Palestinians return all the hostages. Israel will give them a few weeks off from bombing, right? So they may not even start back. If no more trouble comes across the border, they wouldn't even be inclined to start back. But what happens is, the goal of the people attacking Israel is not, independence. It's not like we were trying to throw off the yoke of a totalitarian government. That's not what's going on here. They want to kill all the Jews and have their country, right? And so there's no negotiating stance that's going to make all this okay, right? No one's going to say, okay, yeah, if you give us $5, you can kill all our family, right? No one's going to do that. So, there's no way out of that, right? And you have, large blocks of the party, as well as a lot of the activists and so forth, that are for the other side. They're for Palestine, right? They're for the Hamas, right? They support that. So I don't know how they resolve that. The energy in the party, the AOC wing of the party, seems to be on the Hamas side. That side is unelectable in mainstream America, right? You can do that. You can have your little protests in the big cities, and it looks big because there's a lot of people there jammed into that one block or whatever. But that view is not going to. This is like an 84-15 issue. It's really, really strong pro-Israel issue polling wise. The other one they have is immigration, right? You have your hardcore leftists who, everyone's welcome here and this and that and the other. And then you have, the people in the cities, the Democrats in the cities who, their schools are getting taken over by immigrants. Their public buildings are all being taken over by immigrants. Their airports, right? Everywhere they go, they see these people who aren't supposed to even be in the country, taking up their space, living in their living room, so to speak. I guess you saw, where was it? Somewhere in suburban Chicago, like Naperville, one of those, right? Up top, high tone, Tony suburb of Chicago. The guy on city council says, we let everybody here, almost everybody in the city has a big house. How many of you would be willing to take in, an immigrant family? Like we can't hide them all. We can't keep them all in public buildings, so we need to ask the people of the city to volunteer to have these people in their house. No one volunteered, right? This is tragedy of the commons. We're going to do this in the public sphere one way or the other. So the only answer is to stop the influx, right? That's the only thing that's going to solve Naperville's problem or Chicago's problem, or Denver now is overrun. There's like 40,000 people living in downtown Denver, and some of them are in shelters and some of them are not. And it's a big mess. Denver, which is one of the first sanctuary cities, is trying to absorb and deal with, right? And it's also one of the most accessible from the border. So, what do they do about that, right? And now you have a third one sort of has come in, which is the energy. Biden cut all LNG, no more LNG exports, liquefied natural gas exports, which gives a huge advantage to Russia, gives a huge advantage to Iran, right? The people who are filling in the gaps for the natural gas we're no longer providing. It gives them leverage over Europe, right? So now how does Europe go against Russia or Iran in this when your energy supply hangs in the balance? So, you can have your greenies, or you can have Europe and the Middle East on your side, but you can't have both.
Yeah, you covered a lot of ground there. I mean, going back to the Israel Hamas thing, and we've talked about this before, but Hamas, their effectiveness in all of this is that they've been made to look, they painted themselves as the victim. They've got the media there. The narrative is along the lines of like, our citizens are being killed, innocent citizens in hospitals and everything like this, and let's not pay attention to our tunnels, to the weapons that we've stored, to the attack that we had on October 7th when we went in and killed people.
All the ones since, because they're still doing it every day. That's what people don't understand. There's still rockets coming across the border every day.
Right. And so all of that kind of stuff is being ignored, and the focus is that they're painting this picture of Israel just being inhumane. They're going in and they're willy-nilly killing innocent citizens. But it's like when the citizens are being used as shields, in essence as foils for the enemy, for Hamas, this is something that we know and a lot of conservatives know, but the general public is not really being told how this is all going. And so that you have that constant pressure on Israel. You got to have a ceasefire. You got to do this. You need the two-state solutions. Like, once again, just like you have said, I don't know how many times, is like, Hamas, they're not interested in a two-state solution. They want elimination of Israel. They want, that's it. That is their goal. And liberals and leftists who are supporting Hamas, they won't admit to that. They won't admit that the end goal of the people they support is the elimination of Israel. And if people understood that more, they you said 84-15, we'd go 95-5 or something. Yeah. On that issue alone. But then on immigration, this has become a much hotter issue because of the bungling of the Biden administration. But this thing about this city council thing, that was interesting, because I think there was another thing that came out of Chicago. Didn't somebody say that we need to to no longer be declare ourselves no longer a sanctuary city, right?
Yeah.
That type of thing. But as you were talking about this thing about open up the homes, it's like, okay, let's look at these liberal governors, right? They live in these Tony mansions and stuff like that. Why can't Governor Pritzker or Governor Hochul? It's like, hey, you've got a big mansion. You don't need to occupy the entire
all those rooms.
Yeah, come on. You can turn the governor's mansion into a temporary Airbnb without the fees.
That's right. Yeah. Are you saying there's a security risk?
Oh, right. Yeah. Can you not build temporary shelters on the grounds of the governor's mansion?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's right.
Right. I mean, this is the wealthy don't, I mean, look, and I don't look, if I had a big mansion, and all this, why would I want to take these people in? I mean, I'm not a especially since I'm not a bleeding heart liberal, but if you are a bleeding heart liberal, you're like, are you then being a hypocrite a little bit? Just like, you're
Right.
for kind of open borders, but here are these people need someplace to go and the city can't house them all. You've got lots of extra space. Well, or maybe real estate moguls. Don't you have some empty apartments somewhere you can stick them in or something like that?
Yeah.
They'll never go there.
Right. They won't, there's no, that dissonance never gets brought up. Like you asked for all this, you said you wanted to be a sanctuary city. You virtue signaled on it. Okay, here's the people you're being a sanctuary to. You don't want to help them? Like, these are the ones. Like, they always say, and it's totally not true, but they always say conservatives care about babies right up to the point they're born, right? And then you're on your own. Okay, well, no, that's not what we say. We actually have an elaborate network of charities to deal with women who have kids who need help, right? So, it's nonsense. But in this case, you don't want to deal with the consequences of your actions, right? And that's a big thing.
Yeah. Now, Democrats used to talk a lot about path to citizenship, but I haven't heard anything about that lately. In this border
Well,
battle.
they want this bill. So that's another thing we haven't talked about. There's a bill on Capitol Hill now in the Senate. The lead Republican negotiator on it was Senator James Lankford from Oklahoma. And what it was it was more people to process the asylum claims quicker, right? That's read the room, fellas. We're not trying to make it more efficient to get into the U.S. We're trying to stop people from getting into the U.S. So when you say we're going to spend more money on efficiency, you don't get a lot of support for that, right? That's not what we're trying to do. So, they were going to rush this through so it could look like Biden is doing something, right? And it has a Republican under there who's apparently confused about what the problem is, so they can call it a bipartisan bill. So, the House has already passed H.R. 2, which is an actual immigration bill, which actually keeps people on their side of the border and straightens up the situation. The Senate refuses to take that up, but then they demonize the House for refusing to take up the one that the House finds unacceptable. So, they'll play politics with it for a little while, and they'll move on to other stuff, and this will go on until Trump is back in the White House and fixes it.
Didn't Biden say he vowed that he would shut down the border?
He said so. This bill has a provision in it that they made him put it in at the last minute, where if it gets to 5,000 people a day trying to cross in, then he would say, okay, that's too many. You're overwhelming the system. We'll shut the border. And he says there's so many crossing in now that if this bill makes it to his desk and he signs it, then he would shut down the border on day one, right? But I mean, I'm not believing anything that guy says. I'm not taking his word on what he will do unless he's legally compelled to do it under any circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, what happens to those 5,000 people anyway? They come in. I mean,
right.
Why
are we letting in 5,000? Why is not the answer 0 or as close to it as we can get? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a vow to say I'm going to shut down the border if we get to more than 5,000 people a day, which is like not a lot of people based on how many people are crossing the border. It's like that's not the answer. And
yeah, it's gone up sixfold since Biden has been in office. The number of illegals crossing in.
Yeah, and I think there's still a lot of ignorance that these people that have come in, and they're supposed to report back, for a hearing. They're not reporting back.
More than 90% never report back. That's why catch and release is unviable. And then what they want to do is strengthen catch and release by hiring more people to process get rid of that backlog of claims, of asylum claims. Like, no, put them back on your side of the border. You don't have an asylum claim. You know it. We know it. We know it. We know it. So stop all that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. The border has been an issue for a long time, but it's really gotten to be out of hand now. I mean, their policies failed, utterly failed, right? They couldn't do it Trump's way because, hey, that was Trump's way and he's cruel and dumb and whatever.
So they had to change it, and like everything they changed blew up. Right? Trump had this right. He had the Middle East right. Right? He had the energy picture right. He had Russia right. Remember, Putin took Georgia under W, Crimea under O, Ukraine under Joe. He didn't dare make a move against Trump. Right? Now, why was that?
Yeah, no, I mean,
and then they tell you Trump is his toady. You're like, well, if he was his toady, why did he do nothing on Trump's watch? And he felt that he felt free to take over whatever he wanted to take over under all these other people.
Yeah, I mean, all anybody has to do, because we've talked about this, as well. It's just that you look at what happened overseas during the Trump years, and it's pretty much as soon as Biden took office, within and a month later, I mean, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary, next month, for the invasion of Ukraine, right? This whole thing,
right.
It didn't take very long. I mean, okay, so Biden came in 21. This is amazing. I mean,
But they started moving the troops in like within 3 weeks of Biden taking office.
Yeah, and
almost immediate.
They just planned this whole thing out so that they knew what was going on, and these countries tested Biden. They made moves that were kind of testing. If we do this, will they do anything? Okay, then we can do. Let's try this. Oh, nothing. Okay, let's try this. All right. Okay, well, looks like they're not going to do anything. Let's go ahead and invade Ukraine now. Now we got everything lined up. We can go ahead and do it, because we're not seeing any resistance on any front at all.
Fly a spy museum balloon right across the country. Remember that? Oh, don't shoot it down.
Yeah. No, I mean, just all the myriad of things that have gone wrong on foreign policy. Anthony Blinken, great. That's been a total waste of time.
Right.
Just, one thing.
Jake Sullivan, even worse.
Yeah.
That's when if we get nothing else out of that, let's discredit. Let's make it where those guys never work in this business again. Because man, they have been absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and
Mayorkas.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I think in the end, at least hopefully it comes out that no one who's held a position within, cabinet position, level position, or any position of influence in decision making in the Biden administration should ever hold a job on anywhere near that level ever again. This has been so incompetent. My favorite target is Karine Jean-Pierre. Just terrible. I mean, she there's bad information for her, but she doesn't even know how to. She can't deal with anything. I mean, the whole White House press secretary thing has been an absolute mess since Biden came into office. And I don't know how anybody in the media can say anything otherwise. About this. It's just been a complete disaster.
Yeah, completely incompetent. You can tell like it's a mess every day.
Yeah, I mean, so we're looking at the State Department. You look at the Transportation Secretary. You're looking at HHS. Everywhere you turn, it's like, what are these people doing here? It's like the ultimate embarrassment of political payback. Yeah, you're paying. You're sliding these people in, and if this is ever a case for the failure of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, I don't know what can be any. This is it. I mean, this is what this cabinet represents: is diversity, equity, and inclusion. All the administration people. That's what he's tried to develop, and they're paying a price for this. The country's paying a price for this.
Dumb errors by incompetence.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we rename it to something else, given a new name there. Mayorkas. Okay, so look, I like the guy's incompetent. The border's a mess, and everything like that. The House, I guess, has been on a party line vote in the committee. Passed 2 articles of impeachment. I don't see how they're going to get that through the entire House, and I don't even know whether or not this is something that's worth spending a lot of time on in the House, unless you just want to embarrass Mayorkas more than anything else, and just use it as a way to just remind people. It's like this is the whole policy on the border has been a disaster.
Okay, so a few things on that. First of all, I think border policy is above his pay grade. So I mean, you can blame him for it, but it's really, he's carrying out what the Biden White House wants to do. Uh, he has failed to communicate on it. That's for darn sure, right? The people just don't understand where he is on this. But the things that bug me the most about Mayorkas are not the border policy. What it bugs me about him is, so there was something called the Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention Program, small office of the DHS. Under Obama, they were looking for terrorists. It was shortly after. Under W, it was established under W. They looked for terrorists. They did what it was supposed to do. Terrorist groups fomenting in the U.S. Obama kind of ignored it. Trump slated it for rescission, and one of the Democrats who burrowed into his administration saved it from being cut off. So then when Mayorkas came into power, he weaponized it, and he is doing things like paying contractors to write blogs criticizing conservatives. He's these news rating agencies. He's trying to get that made part of school curricula. So, there's something called NewsGuard, and so a lot of school systems have bought this thing. It's a plug-in to the school computers, and if you consult a source, right, for research or whatever for a report, it comes up and tells you how reliable NewsGuard considers that source to be. And of course, NewsGuard is, it's run by Stephen Brill started it. So, it's run by leftists, right? So, what gets rated as reliable is leftist stuff. What gets related and rejected as unreliable is conservative stuff. So, they also have these things in there where they're trying to, they were teaching people like ops, like they, maneuver Kevin Roberts, the president of Heritage, in a picture with Nick Fuentes, right? Just try to get them where you can see them both in the picture. Look at there, he's with a racist extremist, and sort of foul the relationships between donors. Nonprofits and their donors, and nonprofits and their banks, so they cannot get banking services, and ruin their reputation to people who publish stuff with their advertisers. So, I have all the advertisers say, I don't want to be near this. I don't want this anywhere near me, and so forth. So, that's patently un-American stuff. And, the House has defunded it over some of the stuff, and the Senate now, Josh Hawley the other day introduced legislation to defund it on the Senate side. So the program's in trouble, but it's only in trouble because, nonprofits raise these things. These guys were trying to shut out, conservative information from ever reaching voters, or especially students. So, their literature literally says they're trying to inoculate students against conservative values. So, I don't want to be inoculated against my political beliefs by tax dollars, right? They're using taxpayer dollars to do this. And it's radical, and it's viciously anti-American, and it's election interference. They're not letting you see, the information you need to make choices at the polls.
Yeah, it probably does go beyond that. I just think that with the narrow majority that the Republicans hold, that trying to get these articles of impeachment any further than they are, but they definitely
you may get them, but you're not. You're never getting 60 votes in the Senate, right? Yeah. And also, I question whether impeachment's the right tool here, right? Because what's the high crime and misdemeanor, right? Exactly. It's a policy disagree. You can say he's terrible at immigration policy. That's not really a crime.
Yeah. Yeah, this is where even with Sheila Jackson Lee on the House floor talking about it's a revenge thing. It's like, okay, she has a point there, but on the other hand, it's like, what about those Trump impeachments?
Right, exactly. That's what's funny about that. Is like,
it's like, yeah, it's like pot kettle black thing. What is that? How do you go on the House floor and talk about this revenge impeachment when you've actually done two yourself?
That's right.
Right. So it's like, that really gets to me. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley getting that endorsement, and it's like
she endorsed Nikki.
Yeah, he does support. That's why I labeled
Things
it
that
as
don't matter for 100, Alex. That the Trump hating faction is already going to vote for her, and if not for her, then it'll be interesting to see because there's just what I'm reading on the internet or whatever, they're having a hard time wrapping their minds around voting for Biden, right? Because he's not meeting a lot of their needs either. So there's a lot of talk about third party, this and that, writing in these people. A lot of people still write in DeSantis. DeSantis, the DeSantis fans have been some of the weirdest losers in political history, right? They just like their reaction to, their candidate getting rejected in that way has just been sort of off kilter, sort of nuts. Like, we all get disappointed by the electorate, right? We have these candidates we think are really good and they get stomped and you're just like, right. Like what? I must not know what I'm talking about, but I mean, their reaction to it has just been, it's sort of troubling / incoherent.
Well, I mean, I go back to, I mean, I thought, Scott Walker was he was a terrific governor. And when he ran, I thought, okay, let's see what he can do. I was
Right.
supporting him initially, but when it came out to going on the stump and doing these things, it wasn't there.
It just wasn't there.
And I think, I feel a lot of like that about DeSantis. What DeSantis has done in Florida has been great, right? I mean, he's been a great governor for them, and for the Republicans, Florida is not the swing state right now, right? I mean, it's pretty solidly Republican right now, and so he's been great for that. But boy, he got out on the national campaign trail, and he just didn't, he didn't resonate. He was too stuck in the Florida mindset, and they couldn't get him to broaden his issues and really learn how to deal with people outside the state of Florida in general. And so, he's got
also
time.
talk about, and this is something we need to think about as a party, and the other party too, frankly, is, he was the best progenitor, so to speak, of conservative ideas in the race. If you want to vote for conservative policy, the DeSantis people say, well, he was your guy, right? And there's some merit to that, right? Trump's sort of all over the board on some things, right. And he's been on multiple sides of the same issue in many cases over the years. And DeSantis down the line, dogmatic conservative, right? Which should have made him, should have attracted, but the thing about it is like that paradigm is not really there anymore. It's not conservative ideas, right? There's not a contract with America. There's not any kind of like set list of things that they are all on the same page of, right? And that's part of the deal is like it's not coherent what it means to be / vote for a Republican, right? So you're trying to sell this brand of Republicanism, which you have to win congressional elections. And the guy who tries to do that as president is washes out real early in the race. So, there's someone out there, Mike Johnson or somebody should be developing some kind of contract with America. This is what we're going to run on. This is what we promise to do as a Congress if you elect us as a Congress, because congressional elections are almost all pretty nationalized now. So like in Louisiana, they have eliminated a congressional district, and so they had to redraw the map, right? So the district that's most affected is it's like the northeastern corner all the way down to Baton Rouge, because they need all that space to make one congressional district. It's a rural part of the state. Right now, the lady has that her husband was elected. He's Republican, and he died of COVID before he could take office. So they appointed her, and now she has won one term. So she's the incumbent. So, it'd be interesting to see whether she can, Cleo Fields, who the last time this district was configured like this, he was the candidate. He won it. He also ran for governor and lost. He's trying to come back. He's been out of Congress now for like 30 years. He's trying to make a comeback. So
Wow.
be one of the longest absences in congressional history if he makes it back. So it's an interesting race, and it would seem to be, they've configured this district so a black candidate can win, and he's black, and the lady is white. So it would seem that all the ball should be in his court, but it's not really true, right? It may be that the policies of the Democrats and the effect of the immigration and the economy and so forth have been so profound that it may not put him over the limit.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, I think you've got a good point there, because during the 12 years I served on our local central committee, I think one of the most frustrating things was that here you had 48 people, most of them conservatives, but they were still divided. And it's not, there's still a lot of the old guard there's looking for the next Reagan. Well, we're not going to get the next Reagan.
Right.
And the contract with America, that you kind of need these principles or something to say, this is what we believe in, what we're running. Because right now it seems like everybody's got an idea what it is. And and then you have this group that agrees on this, and this group agrees on this, and this group, but if you have two or three, they don't all agree on the same thing, and they can't be unified. So you've got this split that hurts the conservatives, hurt the Republican Party. The Republicans would have a lot more representation in the House and the Senate if they had something like that to go on, instead of having this split that basically gives a lane to the Democrats to divide them up even further. So
that's right.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Let me see what's on our list here. So we have it. Obamacare, has become unaffordable.
I love the Stacey Abrams thing. It's like,
yeah, right. Yeah, that's pretty funny. She's laid off 75% of the people who worked in her fair fight thing, right? Which there's no real. That tells you though, there's no strength in their activism, right? Their activism is not. Nobody's thrilled about going out knocking doors for these guys right now, right? Yeah. There's a real opportunity here to deal a serious blow to Democrats. I have every confidence that we will squander that opportunity, but it is there. The Sotomayor says that she is frustrated and traumatized by Supreme Court losses. I don't think this has been a partisan court, right? The Republicans are frustrated with some of the verdicts as the Democrats. So, I don't know about all that. So, and I also think we're getting to the point where it's pretty straight line law, and you kind of have to do it a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think it's a loss here and there. She's suspecting other things, but yeah, the court has not been this overly conservative court, right?
Right.
We get some rulings that don't satisfy us even. So, yeah, I mean, on the Stacey Abrams thing is that apparently they have like 1.9 million on hand, but they owe 2.5 million or something like that. So, I think hopefully this is the end of Stacey Abrams.
Oh, the other one is I don't know if you saw this, the Atlanta. Okay, the prosecutor down there is, hired her boyfriend, even though he doesn't know anything about this kind of law. And so this all came to pass because he was having a noisy divorce as a result of fooling around with Fannie Willis while he was married, right? So they went and paid off the wife. And so the divorce case has been settled. And, so no one has to testify in their divorce case and whatnot. So one thing to keep an eye on is, where did that money come from? Who paid this off? Because, that's a fixer. That's somebody out there who realizes this is a problem. It's probably too late. The legislature's investigating, and it's unlikely that case ever goes forward.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. God bless America. We're going to be off next week, so we'll be back in 2 weeks with another edition. So we'll have plenty of news by then. All right, everyone. See you later.